You get the grade back, your stomach just drops to the floor. You failed. And that one little letter, that one number, it makes you question everything. Your intelligence, your ability, your future. I've been there. I will never forget failing a huge physics exam I was so sure I'd aced. It was crushing. But what if I told you that this exact moment of failure is the key to a study system that can guarantee you never feel this way again? If you're trying to study after failure, the goal isn't to feel motivated. It's to follow a system. Failure isn't a final verdict. It's just data. And I'm about to show you the 3-step process I used to turn my worst academic moment into my biggest breakthrough. Number 1, the mindset shift, from failure to feedback. First up, you have to let yourself feel it. Seriously, the anger, the disappointment, all of it. Don't bottle it up. But, and this is a big but, you can't let it define you. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a non-negotiable part of it. The most successful people on the planet used failure as a launch pad. Thomas Edison famously said he didn't fail 10,000 times trying to make a light bulb. He just found 10,000 ways it wouldn't work. That's the mindset shift. This grade isn't a judgment. It's not a stamp on your forehead that says you're not smart enough. It's a single data point giving you incredibly valuable information. Your job is to stop seeing it as a disaster and start seeing it as your own personal feedback system. The second you do that, you take all the power back. You go from feeling hopeless to being in total control, ready to figure out what really went wrong. So, feel the feeling, and then let's get to work. All right, now it's time to put on your detective hat. We're leaving the emotion behind and getting analytical. That failed exam, it's a crime scene, and you need to figure out exactly what happened, because the fastest way to study after failure is to stop guessing and start diagnosing. To build a better plan, you have to find the flaws in the old one. Ask yourself these questions and be brutally honest. First, was it a preparation problem? Let's be real. Did you put in enough hours, or was it a last-minute cram session? Cramming is one of the worst ways to learn because our brains physically need time to build memories. Second, was it a method problem? Were you actually studying or just going through the motions? Passively rereading your notes or highlighting half the textbook feels like work, but it's one of the least effective ways to remember anything. Or was there a straight-up knowledge gap? A few topics you just never really got? Third, was it an execution problem? Did you run out of time on the test? Did test anxiety hit you and suddenly you couldn't remember things you absolutely knew? Categorize your mistakes. Go through that exam question by question. Was it a simple misread, a concept you didn't know, or a careless error? Pinpointing why you failed is the most important step because it tells you exactly what to fix. Once you've diagnosed the problem, it's time to build a system so it never, ever happens again. This is where we bring in the heavy hitters, powerful, science-backed techniques that will completely change how you study. The core of this entire system is active recall. Instead of just passively reading, you have to force your brain to pull information out of your memory. This is the difference between recognizing something familiar and truly knowing it. You can do this with practice questions, flashcards, or my favorite, after a class, take a blank piece of paper and write down everything you remember. Next, you have to combine active recall with spaced repetition. This is how you fight the forgetting curve. You review information at increasing intervals, maybe after 1 day, then 3 days, then a week. This tells your brain, hey, this is important. Store it in long-term memory. There are apps like Anki that can handle the scheduling for you. To keep your focus sharp and avoid burnout, use the Pomodoro technique. You study in intense 25-minute sprints, then take a 5-minute break. After 4 of those, you take a longer break. This keeps you fresh and incredibly productive. And finally, if you realized you had knowledge gaps, use the Feynman technique. Try to explain the concept in the simplest terms you can, like you're teaching it to a kid. The exact moments you get stuck or have to use complicated jargon, those are the gaps in your understanding that you need to go back and fill. That's how you study after failure without repeating the same mistake. So that's the plan. a 3-step process to turn any failure into your next big success. This is Peak Razor. Let's build productivity systems that win daily.